And in this episode of WQA Radio, we're pleased to be talking with Keith Johnson, who is the Vice President of Product Management at Echo Water, a longtime WQA member. So Keith, nice to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Appreciate it, Wes. Glad to be here.
You are chairing the Crosscorrelation Task Force, as well as being active in WQA events and so forth. So we wanted to touch base with you on that, catch up with you. Tell us a little bit about what you do with Echo Water and what's keeping you busy these days.
You know, like all of us in the industry, it's crazy busy, right? But so I've been with Echo Water for 22 years now. Been involved with WQA, and of course, Echo Water's been involved with WQA long before I was there as well. But a great organization, and we look forward to all communications and how do we help out as much as we can. So that's kind of where this most recent task force came together.
Yeah, any big challenges right now that you see as significant and more time-consuming than others?
You know, you look at a lot of us in the industry are seeing it, right? Happened the last few years, the pandemic, right? I think we all saw massive shifts in the industry, and demand was way up and supplies were down, and I think everybody was challenged with that. And where's it going next, right? We've seen things settle down a little bit. Some of the numbers, we see the WQA shipment numbers are trending down a little bit, and we've all been taking advantage of the significant increases the last couple of years, but I think it's coming back down more to normal. So, supplies are coming back. I think everybody's seeing that. Prices are softening a little bit in some transportation and things, which I think is good for all of us.
How do you look at the economy these days? There's been this kind of a perpetual questioning of, are we in a recession? Will we be in a recession? Are we coming out of some sort of a slowdown? Are we going to have a soft landing? Where are you on that? What are you seeing?
From our organization, I think for a while we were all thinking we're heading to a massive recession, but we're not seeing it, right? Definitely things are coming down. We saw a lot of people probably pulling sales forward, right? When we saw the WQA and our industry numbers were up, 20% in a lot of areas, that's not realistic, right? So for sure, we're pulling some sales forward. Some people are, how often do you really buy a water softener, for example? You don't buy one every year. Same thing with some water treatment products. People were working from home. They're taking care of their homes instead of going on vacations. They're putting in filtration, different water treatments. So for sure, we saw a spike in that. But we're not seeing a massive shift like it's really going to fall off the cliff or anything like that. Softening a little bit, yes. Supply is getting better, which I think is all good. But we're feeling at this point okay. We're going to go back to probably normal numbers. Shipment-wise, maybe up a little bit, hopefully, from what we've seen in the past. But so far, we're feeling okay.
Yeah, and it really is surprising. You watch the financial shows or you read the columns and you think, wow, how is it that this all happened? And obviously, a lot of different opinions out there as to the resiliency of the consumer and all of that's happened. But it's good to see anyway, one way or the other, that we didn't slide into a full-blown recession, or at least haven't so far. So I don't want to jinx it here, Keith. Hopefully, as you say, we'll kind of pull out of this thing and can continue to move forward. But one of the things that I like about the cross-correlation task force that we mentioned at the outset, you've been chairing this task force for WQA, which is great, but it's got this sort of predictive aspect to it, if that's correct, if that's the correct way to look at it. So what I'd like you to do is kind of spell that out for us. What is it? What's the task force been doing? How long has it been in operation? And what have you been looking at these days?
Yeah, absolutely. You look, I guess in a perfect world, if I could predict exactly where the economy is going, I'd be probably doing something different than my life. As wonderful as water treatment is, I would be doing something different if I could predict it perfectly. But in a step in that direction is really what came out of this, right? So WQA is looking at how do we provide more value to the members? They do a nice job today of doing the valve and tank shipment information, right? It goes back to been tracking that back to the 80s. And recently, within a couple of years, added reverse osmosis tracking as well, shipments. And, those old timers like myself, WQA used to track those back about 20 years ago and then kind of let it go because it's harder to track because of a lot of the imports and a lot of the assembler business. But I think WQA is doing a nice job of bringing that in, adding more value and showing him some historic numbers of last quarter, last year, what's the industry seeing out there so we can compare our business to the industry as a whole. So what came out of there's a bunch of various projects looked forward by WQA is like, what should we look at next? How do we add value? And the one that rose to the top was this cross-correlation task force. And what it means is, how do we use the data that Water Quality Association has available? What else can we correlate that to? What are the numbers? It doesn't have to be part of the industry. It could be anything. It could be, it could be showerhead. It doesn't even matter. But what numbers are available out there we can correlate to? And in a perfect world, get to be able to predict it, right? That's where the value really gets to be, is not only can we show that these numbers correlate exactly or reverse either way, but what's the trend going forward? How do we predict our business? And what's really come out of this is we did a lot of analysis of different things. We looked at some public information that's available, like the National Retailer Association shares numbers, right? And the Association for Home Appliances, the National Suppliers Association, and then even some of the WQA data that's out there, the Consumer Opinion Study, right? There's data on that, and the Business Operations Reports. How do we correlate our numbers that are available? And we did a lot of work on this. A fantastic team. The volunteers did a really excellent job of this. And we started looking at some more federal numbers, largely because they predict more than some of the other associations, right? So there's the FRED numbers, which are the Federal Reserve Economic Data. There is a ton of information out there from housing, consumer spending in those areas. And we kind of end up focusing a lot on that, largely because of the predictability of this. And so we'll be showing this at the Midyear coming up in more detail, but it's really exciting data, because what we're seeing is a very, very close correlation historically between our shipment numbers and what the numbers are of some of these FRED databases. And the most wonderful part of it is they do a pretty good job of predicting where it's going. So looking forward, our industry, we'll be able to take a look at these numbers and say, hey, this is likely what's going to happen to our industry over the next 6 months, a year, 2 years, and do some predictability off of that. So it's really exciting information.
And so the idea would be that you would be able to utilize some of that information for your business going forward over the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, absolutely. You look at all of us. Honestly, it'd be pretty helpful for a lot of us as we're doing a plan for next year, right? What are we putting for numbers for expectations off of that? So whether you're privately held or you're a public company, whatever, we all put a growth plan together for the next 12 months or beyond. And then how do you resource that, right? How do you control your spending, and understanding where your business is likely going to go really allows us to control our business as a whole and understand where we're going to take it.
One of the things that I like about this study and what the task force found was that it was using existing data and existing information and pulling it all together without any added cost, right? This is not, we're putting this information out there, but we're not causing the member to incur any extra expense.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, the WQA website today has, all the historic information for valve and tank shipments, and obviously new RO data. We're adding that to the same portal, right? Same area you can click on what industry's been shipping, and then go to the next link over, and we're going to have this cross correlation. So here's the current numbers, here's our correlates, and here's the prediction. Here's where it's going to go, likely in our cases. So yeah, it's a free service to the members that, to me, has a ton of value as owners look at it, and business decision makers within the organization you can plan to.
From what you've seen so far, Keith, any surprises in the data in terms of what it shows?
Honestly, looking at the next couple of years, because we look very closely on it, and we're tracking very close. Again, this task force started in 2021, and we kind of put a bow tie on it, this year for the most part, and going to present the final report. But I'm very excited what we're going to share. The numbers we're seeing right now, predicting, we've looked at it now for 6 months. It's what we're seeing. I mean, the predictions are very good. A little inkling is next year we're going to see some nice increases. Looking at the forecast, our industry's got a good year coming up in 2024.
And so this will be presented at the Midyear Leadership Conference coming up in September in Lake Tahoe. And just a quick sidebar, if you want more information about the conference, go to wqa.org/MYLC for Midyear Leadership Conference. Let's see how that works, Keith. Anyway, but Keith is going to be there, others from the task force, and just tell us a little bit about what that presentation and session will be like.
Yeah, we're going to go through some detail of it. Again, kind of the whole history of the task force, We're going to show some data that didn't work, right? We analyzed a bunch of data that didn't make sense. We're going to show that, and then we're going to obviously trend to the areas what did show, what did correlate very well. So you'll get an overview of this in a short period of time. What took us 2 or 3 years to do, you'll see kind of what we went through. And how we came to the conclusions we did, and how we're so excited about the information that is going to be available to the members, and how we're confident this is going to add a tremendous value to all the members.
That's fantastic. And again, another reason to come to Midyear if you're at all on the fence and thinking about it. But this is going to be some great information that will be presented by Keith's group, the task force, the Cross-Correlation Task Force. So anything else we need to know going forward, Keith, about either the data or the session at Midyear, or anything else in terms of what the task force has in mind?
I'm just looking forward to seeing everybody, right? We're kind of past the pandemic now. People are traveling, people are getting together. I think it's beneficial for all of us to get together, and excited that WQA is putting on this opportunity for us all to get together in Lake Tahoe here in just a little over a month.
You know, that's a good point. We do like getting together, and it's been tougher in these last few years. So tell us what you feel the advantage to be of getting together at a mid-year conference like this.
You know, the presentations are fantastic, but to me, just as valuable as spending time with the other members, right? Just you can bounce ideas off each other. What are you seeing? What are you hearing out there? And it's just a ton of value for everybody there, that we can provide some insights. They can share some insights, and putting it together, it just helps us all make better decisions and benefit the industry, right?
Yes, exactly right. So Keith Johnson, thank you so much. Keith Johnson with Echo Water joining us today on the podcast in the Cross-Correlation Task Force, and some data that has been correlated, put together with predictive analytics that will, well, as you say, Keith, it shows some good times ahead for the industry, right?
Absolutely. We're excited.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing everybody in Lake Tahoe.